Hello everyone, this is Pooka and welcome to another Pokemon TCG video. Today we're going to look at one of my favorite decks, and that is an Aromatisse, Mega Kangaskhan, and, well, lots of other friends deck. So let's jump right into it. Aromatisse has the amazingly powerful ability Fairy Transfer that allows you to move around all of your fairy energy in play as you like. So you got a fairy energy on a bench Pokemon, you want to move it to the active? Go right ahead. Fairy Transfer makes it possible. So the idea here is we're going to use a lot of different Pokemon with Aromatisse, moving the energy wherever we need to put it. Okay, so we are in a 3-3 line of Aromatisse, and everything else is going to be single cards. Kind of crazy when you think about it, but somehow it all comes together and works out pretty well. Alright, so we're going to take a look at things one by one. The first thing I want to look at is Mega Kangaskhan EX. So this is a monster of a Pokemon, 230 HP, extremely difficult to knock out in one hit, and that's going to be part of the strategy here. Since 230 HP is so darn much, whenever you take a hit from something, what we're going to do is use Fairy Transfer to move the energy away from Mega Kangaskhan, and then play a Max Potion to heal off all of the damage. And then you don't have to discard energy because you'll move it somewhere else, and then you move the energy right back. It's a strategy we've seen for a while, but it is still as powerful as ever. Mega Kangaskhan's attack itself, Wham Bam Punch, isn't actually overwhelmingly good by any means. It'll do 100 damage, then you flip till you get Tails, does 30 for each head. Now don't get me wrong, you can get pretty lucky with Wham Bam Punch. I think the most damage I've done is 250 with it, so you can certainly knock out anything with Wham Bam Punch if you get enough heads. But most of the time it's going to do 100 damage, or maybe 130 if you flip heads. A magic number you can hit is 2 heads, which will do 160 damage, and then if you attach a muscle band, that'll do 180 damage, which means you knock out most Pokemon EX in one hit with Wham Bam Punch if you manage to flip 2 heads, and that is a 25% chance of happening. So that's not bad. 1 out of 4 times you can knock out a Pokemon EX in one hit with Wham Bam Punch. The math may not be completely accurate, but I think it's about 1 in 4. Okay, so Mega Kangaskhan is great. It is a big tank. The problem is Mega Evolution ends your turn, and there is no Mega Kangaskhan Spirit Link, so you do have to waste a turn, but once you get it out, it normally survives. It's worth noting that regular Kangaskhan has a great utility attack, Triple Draw. Sometimes if you have a bad hand, but you have a way to search for a basic, Triple Draw can actually bail you out, draws you 3 cards. It's not overwhelmingly good, it's not something you would like to do very often, but I've used it plenty of times, and it has saved me plenty of times. So just keep in mind, Triple Draw does exist. Okay, now, Phantom Forces did bring a few new tricks to Aromatisse decks, and I think the biggest one is going to be Malamar EX. So Malamar, we don't see it used too often, but it is a perfect fit in this deck. The ability Hyper Hypnosis. When you put an energy from your hand to Malamar EX, your opponent's active Pokemon goes to sleep. Now, we all know how devastating Hypnotoxic Laser can be. Oh, how many times have you stayed asleep on a Hypnotoxic Laser and you lost the game because you stayed asleep, and it's the most frustrating thing in the world. Well, think if you got to put your opponent to sleep every turn. That can be super annoying. So all you have to do is attach your energy for the turn to Malamar, and then use Aromatisse's Fairy Transfer to move it to a different Pokemon. And every turn, you can just put your opponent's Pokemon to sleep at no cost. That's crazy. So Malamar is a huge addition to Aromatisse decks, one that can break the game for you. Another addition to this deck is actually Aegislash EX. I think this is a really cool card in this deck. It goes along with the theme of being pretty defensive. This is a deck that relies on Max Potion a lot. And Aegislash has a great ability, Mighty Shield. Prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from each of your opponent's Pokemon that has special energy attached to it. So there are quite a few decks that rely on special energy, whether it's strong energy or double colorless energy. Those are the two big ones. They rely on it so much that sometimes just putting up an Aegislash EX can stop your opponent completely. For example, think of a Donphan deck. They rely on strong energy a lot. And I mean, most Donphan decks play like 4 or 5, 6 regular fighting energy at most. And what you can do against that deck is just put up Aegislash EX. And Spinning Turn won't really do a lot of damage when there's no strong energy. Right? You know, even with a Fighting Stadium and a Muscle Band that's doing 80 damage, it's not even enough to knock out Aegislash in 2 hits. And you know, Wreck takes 4 energy. How are they going to do that without double colorless? Aegislash can just stop decks completely in their track, and it's worth running just for that. Slash Blast, not an overwhelmingly good attack by any means. Going to be a pretty mediocre attack most of the time. 40 plus 20 for each metal energy. We are running Rainbow Energy, so we can do the additional damage, but most of the time it's going to do a pretty modest amount of damage, but that ability is really, really good. Okay, so those are the 2 new toys that Aromatisse decks did gain in this set. I've seen some versions with Florges EX, but that only works if you run kind of a pure fairy deck, so we're not going to be playing it in this deck. Other things that I've had in this deck before. Regular Xerneas. Geomancy is great for energy acceleration. Get some extra fairy energy on the board immediately. Just a great 130 HP Pokemon. Can also knock out Safeguard Pokemon with Rainbow Spear if you need to do that. Suicune is one of my favorite cards in this deck. Safeguard, like I was just saying, can disrupt all sorts of decks. And, you know, between Mighty Shield on Aegislash and Safeguard and Suicune, you can win games just by annoying your opponent sometimes, and it's pretty funny to see. Aurora Beam doesn't do a lot, 70 damage. With a Muscle Band, though, it is doing 90, which is relevant because it knocks out most Pokemon EX in 2 hits. And if there's one that's weak to water, well, there's a 1-hit knockout. Great against Landorus EX, and, you know, some Fire EXs that might come up like a Charizard or something like that. One of my favorite cards for sure in this deck. Otherwise, we just got some other big EXs. Mewtwo EX, X-Ball, that's all you need to know. Yveltal EX, Evil Ball, and Y Cyclone, just another great Pokemon. Landorus EX, great because it's a 1 energy attacker, and we don't have to commit too many energy to it. The whole point of this deck is to kind of conserve your energy, move them where they need to go, and if you do get knocked out, try not to lose too much of your energy so that you can keep powering up other attackers. Landorus, the ability to attack for 1 energy is just extremely important, so great card in this deck. And Virizion EX, again, we want a kind of a defensive deck here. So Verdant Wind stops special conditions if you have a grass energy attached, which again, Rainbow Energy can provide. So Verdant Wind, it's crucial to avoiding 1-hit knockouts from Hypnotoxic Laser. You have to run this in your Aromatisse deck if you're playing Rainbow Energy. And yep, we're playing 4 Rainbow Energy. We are running 7 Fairy Energy and then 1 Double Colorless Energy as well. It's worth noting that even though Aromatisse decks did gain the Malamar, did gain the Aegislash, it also got hurt quite a bit by Phantom Forces as well. Number 1, Enhanced Hammer, discarding your Rainbow Energy, is pretty devastating. If I had to pick out one reason why I don't like this deck as much anymore, it's Enhanced Hammer. Number 2, VS Seeker exists, so now your opponent gets more opportunities to play Lysander and take cheap prizes off of your bench, which makes the defensive strategy a little less potent. So between Enhanced Hammer and VS Seeker for, you know, Lysander, this deck does become a lot weaker, but it's still very, very powerful. Now, one of the keys to this deck running successfully is Fairy Garden. Every Pokemon that has a Fairy Energy attached has no retreat cost. This allows you to move freely between your Pokemon, retreat for free, just Fairy Transfer and energy up to the active, retreat, free, and there you go. Put up a new Pokemon. So I do believe you need 4 of these in your deck in order for it to run effectively. Speaking of 4, I do run 4 Pokemon Fan Club in this deck as well. Now, this is a pretty unpopular choice for most people, but I think it is a staple in the Aromatisse deck. Your opening turn becomes 10 times better when you have a Pokemon Fan Club in your hand, just being able to grab multiple basic Pokemon. You need to search out your basic Pokemon for this deck to work. It's all about reacting to your opponent, and it's also about getting 2 Spritzy into play immediately, so your opponent can't just Lysander one of them and knock them out and take away your ability to use Aromatisse. So 4 Pokemon Fan Club, I will always be running 4 in this deck. We also have the other standard supporters, Professor Juniper, N, and we got some Colress along with 2 VS Seeker. We have Dowsing Machine as the A-Spec card. Just seems like it makes the most sense to me. Gets to recover important cards. We do have those 3 Max Potion I was talking about before. We have 2 Ultra Ball and then 1 Evo Soda. I do like running one of these in this deck, since it can not only grab Aromatisse, but you can Mega Evolve into Mega Kangaskhan with it as well. You also don't have to discard like you would with Ultra Ball, so it's nice to have an Evo Soda in the deck sometimes. We are going to run a Startling Megaphone. I've noticed that Garbodor is getting a little less popular nowadays, so we're going to cut down to 1 Startling Megaphone. Between the Startling Megaphone, Dowsing Machine, Lysander, to knock out Garbodor, we can deal with it pretty effectively, so I'm pretty comfortable just running the 1. But I think that's the deck here. There's a lot of different options, and that is what makes this deck fun. You have all sorts of different Pokemon to attack with. You can use a different strategy pretty much every game, different attacks every game if you want. And one of the best things with this deck, at the end of the game, if you just need 1 knockout, you can move 10 energy to a Malamar EX and use Maximar and just flip a bunch of coins and knock something out in 1 hit. All you need is, if something has 180 HP, all you need is 3 heads. And Maximar knocks it out in 1 hit. But it is a little scary when you put all your energy on a Malamar and you flip a bunch of tails. So keep that in mind. But it's certainly fun to be able to Maximar for a win. Done that a few times. I think I've done over 400 damage with it, so that's pretty fun. Alright, so there is enough of my explanation for this deck. I'm going to go ahead and jump into a game I played on Pokemon TCG Online, see the Aromatisse deck in action. And, even though I'm showing this game here, it's strange because this deck is... my opponent's letting me go first. That's kind of strange. Feeling pretty good about it. I always get kind of nervous when my opponent lets me go first because it's probably a very aggressive deck, but at the same time, I'm pretty happy to go first. So we'll see what happens. But what I was saying is, Aromatisse decks, they never really play the same way twice. Every game, it looks a little bit different. Even in the same matchup, I've played the same matchup differently every time, just based on what's in my hand, what my opponent is doing. It's always a deck where you need to be reacting. You can't just have tunnel vision and try to do the same strategy. Every time you need to take a look at what's happening, take a look at what resources you have, and go from there. Now, looks like, I was correct about facing an aggressive deck. We are going up against a Night March deck. So this should be a little bit interesting. Not really sure how it's going to go, but I do know my opening hand is terrible. Even after my opponent's mulligan, I have effectively gotten nothing. The good news is I did start with Kangaskhan EX, so I am able to use Triple Draw. So we can do the next turn. Since I was going first, I could not use Triple Draw there. So, oh well. But next turn I will be able to do that. I just went ahead and put the energy on Virizion EX in case, Kangaskhan got hurt. And if I top deck a Max Potion, I could Max Potion and then Triple Draw with the energy I put down. We can always move that energy later with Aromatisse. But my opponent's going to play a Battle Compressor. Look at that, I did draw a Max Potion. My opponent did play a Battle Compressor and then did nothing else. So, looks like I'm going to have a little bit of time here to use Triple Draw draw 3 cards, and I think I drew some pretty worthless cards. My opponent does play a Professor Juniper, and it looks like this is a Night March Flareon deck, so it's going to be a deck that aims to get one-hit knockouts, which is really something my deck does not like at all. One-hit knockouts are really the problem for this deck. It just, they take away your energy. You don't get to use the max potion. I don't know. We'll see. So I did get an Aromatisse into play, so I will be able to move my energy around. I'm going to play an Ultra Ball here, discarding Suicune for sure, and then I'm actually going to get rid of Startling Megaphone as well. The Megaphone probably won't help me very much in this matchup. And I'm going to take a second Spritzy with this Ultra Ball, get that down. And it looks like we're going to triple draw again. Alright, well at least I got supporters this time. Hurrah! I can actually do things besides triple draw. But my opponent is certainly building steam, it would appear. There is a Battle Compressor. Gonna search the deck and discard 3 more cards. Probably 3 more Night March Pokemon. Now, Night March deck can do ridiculous amounts of damage very quickly. But if I do manage to get Mega Kangaskhan into play, 230 is absurdly hard to do with Night March. If you think about it, you can play 12 Night March Pokemon. You can play the 4 Lampent, Pumpkaboo, and Joltik, and to do 230 damage. Even if you get 11 Night March Pokemon in the discard pile, that's 220 damage, and that's not enough to knock out Kangaskhan in one hit. Of course, you could do something like a Muscle Band or a Silver Bangle, which does make the knockouts possible, but the point here is my opponent has 3 Night March Pokemon in play, and if you have 3 in play, you can only get 9 in the discard. That's 180. Even with the Silver Bangle, it's 210. So my opponent won't be able to knock out a Mega Kangaskhan in one hit, which is pretty reassuring. It'll survive a hit, and then we can max potion, and everything will be beautiful. All right, so my opponent does Night March my poor Spritzy for the knockout, but that's okay. I'm going to go ahead and put down a Xerneas with a Rainbow Energy. Seems like a good candidate to put an energy on. And I'm debating benching another Pokemon here. I'll go ahead and put down a Mewtwo. It can attack for 2 energy, and it'll pretty much always get a knockout. But I don't know if I really want to attack here with anything. I may just want a Mega Evolve. Seems like a good option. So I'm actually going to Fairy Transfer. I don't know how much energy I should put on the active, but it is pretty safe from being knocked out. So I'm just going to go ahead and Mega Evolve to Mega Kangaskhan. I probably should have moved the 3rd energy up to Mega Kangaskhan as well, but some fluky thing could happen where, I don't know, I get knocked out somehow, and I just don't feel like I should risk that. So I have managed to find my turn to Mega Evolve. That is something very important with this deck. Figuring out a turn where you can actually give up the turn to Mega Evolve. Where you can say, okay, not too much harm is going to happen here. I'm not going to lose the game if I give up this turn here. In fact, this is probably a turn where my opponent will maybe get a knockout, but in the long run, I'll have this monster Mega Kangaskhan that my opponent can do nothing about. So that seemed like the turn right there. I could have easily just used X-Ball with Mewtwo or maybe Emerald Slash with Virizion, but then I'm giving up 2 prizes. I'm losing 2 energy. So playing defensively seems like a much better strategy on that particular turn. Right, so my opponent still just has the Joltik with a 2 energy using Night March and hits me for 140 damage. Normally quite a bit of damage, but in this situation, it's just not enough. And, here it's a perfect opportunity for me to grab the big, bad Aegislash EX. Now, you might be thinking, oh no, what are you doing? There's a fire Pokemon on the bench. And most of the time you would be correct. But in this situation, I know my opponent's only way of attacking are with 2 energy attacks. And the only way to do that is with a double colorless energy. And that means my opponent cannot knock out Aegislash next turn. So again, we're just kind of taking advantage of the situation. Going to use Slash Blast for 40. And I know for a fact Aegislash is safe. Nothing's going to knock that out. Flareon, no, just can't happen. Unless there's like an Ether or something to get a second basic energy in play. It just doesn't happen. And this is where Aegislash can be ridiculously good against decks that are reliant on double colorless energy. If you take away their Pokemon that have basic energy on them, all of a sudden Aegislash is pretty tough to deal with, and it gets kind of scary. So now you might notice, well, what does my opponent do here? Puts down an Eevee with a grass energy, and actually evolves into Leafeon. Now I think maybe the better route would have been to go just try to power up a Flareon, but at this point I don't know if it even matters. I have a Rainbow Energy in hand, just to get an extra energy into play. Let's see, you can take a look at what my opponent has used so far. Just trying to take a look at how many Pokemon are in the discard. See if there's any way for my Mega Kangaskhan to get knocked out. And I don't think so in this case. So I'm going to retreat into Mega Kangaskhan. We'll go ahead and promote the big guy. And wham, bam, punch. Tails, but we don't need to really do more than 30. We already do 100. That already knocks out Joltik more than 3 times over, so we'll take it. Okay, so now it's just a matter of trying to deny my opponent prizes. And we do see a Lysander here, so I cannot deny every prize, I suppose, but that's okay. 1 prize, I'll accept that all day. And this is just another opening to use Aegislash EX. I'm going to promote my Aegislash and attach a 3rd Rainbow Energy onto the active. And then I'm actually going to play an N, try to lower my opponent's hand size a little bit. With a 3 Rainbow, I can Slash Blast for 100, and we're in a spot once again where my opponent just... The only way to attack is with a double colorless, and Aegislash's Mighty Shield stops that. You know, anytime there's a special energy, they can't hurt you. So Aegislash effectively slowing the game down right here, giving me time to just take prizes uncontested. And you can see it's definitely proving its worth right here. My opponent plays a town map, flips over a couple of Eevees, so looks like no more Eevee this game, along with a double colorless. But I gotta wonder how many basic energy my opponent even has left. Most of these Night March decks only fit like 4 or 5 basic energy at most, and 3 of them are in the discard. So my opponent would probably need to find the last 2 basic energy to even hurt Aegislash EX again in this game. And we just see another pass from my opponent. I get an Aromatisse into play again. And boy, this is just getting uglier by the second. Gonna drop the Muscle Band onto the Aegislash EX. Along with, we're gonna drop a Fairy there so we can move a Rainbow over to Mewtwo. Just get another attacker ready to go. And let's go with a Slash Blast. That was probably a little more conservative than I needed to go again, since nothing can really knock out Aegislash. Don't really think so. Unless there's another Leafeon, but hey, there are 2 Eevee in the or 2 Eevee in the prizes, 1 in the discard, 1 in the active. So yeah, it's just probably not going to happen. Now we do see a double colorless on a Flareon along with a Silver Bangle, but just see an N. So there's no Lysander, no an Escape Rope wouldn't really work, because you can't attack with Flareon. So yep, the Mighty Shield is mighty handy right here. Just, I mean, it's totally shutting down this Flareon Night March deck. So we're just gonna go with another Slash Blast. Don't really need to do anything there. And looks like this victory is pretty much inevitable at this point. You can see my opponent definitely was the aggressor in this game, but once we got Mega Kangaskhan out, once we got Aegislash out, the game just completely slowed down. We got a Max Potion off at a good time. And sure, Aromatisse will go down. I can't move my energy anymore, but Well, I just have to do 30 damage. And the game is over, and we have plenty of things that can do 30 damage. We can Steel Blast, or Slash Blast, sorry, we can Wham Bam Punch, and well, I think we're going to go for a Wham Bam Punch, why not? Opponent is pretty gracious in defeat, and Wham Bam, oh no! Oh, poor Joltik. 250 damage, Wham Bam Punch. Goodbye, Joltik. And, yep, that is going to close out this game. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll certainly have some more for you soon. I am Pooka from the Top Cut, and I'll see you guys next time.